uppföljning till de efterkommande. Om det är okej, I got inspired by Dennis actually, since we have guests from Switzerland and Germany, that if that's okay for you, I'll actually stick to English as well. But the slides are in Swedish. And what I want to talk about is basically that what is the entity of a trip. It doesn't matter how good your hotel is, it doesn't matter how nice your cycle routes are. What people will remember is the entire experience of the visit. You can compensate with fantastic service for maybe not as good routes, but it's usually the weakest links. What is actually important for cycle tourists? You have to keep in mind, I'll go back to the individual, what do we want from a trip? Is it the nice hotel? Well, is it the nice route? No, it is the experience. It is that we can remember something, that we had fun, that we could relax, that we were in the outdoors, that we were with friends. We don't want any trouble. And of course we want to see nice things, we want to eat good food. That is the product. It's not the hotel night. It's not the cycle route. It is not the restaurant that is the product of the visit. The product is the entire experience of coming. As we've heard before, the fundamental, I find this temple diagram very nice because it is actually the same thing as I'm saying. There's a basic that there's some things you cannot change. You know, it can't rain, even in Denmark. You know, historic sites, you either have them or you don't. You have to live with that. If you aim at hiking tourists and you happen to have mountains, great. If you don't, you have to find a different niche. You cannot compete. There maybe you have beaches. So you have to figure out what is the specific, unique, special thing that you have. It's actually quite fun because the Donauradweg, which is one of the most established and famous cycle routes in Austria and in Europe, came actually about by the fact that they didn't have any mountains. Because it's quite an interesting fact that main people behind it realized hiking is booming in Austria at that time. 20, 30 years ago, it was a boom of hiking tourism. But the poor people in the Donau Valley, it was just too flat. It was just too boring to hike. What do we do? Should we provide another boring, a hiking product that we already know is not going to attract people, or should we find something else? What is good? Well, if it's flat, it's good for cycling. So they developed a cycle trail, a cycle tourist product that actually became a really important major industry for this valley. So find out what is specific and work with that. There is, of course, a lot of factors that you can influence, and I'm not going through all of them, but a few. I mean, how do you inform people? How do you deal with tourists? And I'll start with what comes before the trip. Because planning, marketing, communication, choosing the trip is actually part of the product. If it's impossible to find information, if the information is scattered, it's not well designed, it's not in your own language, it's just too complicated, you will most probably not choose that destination. Make it easy. How easy is it to find hotels? Well, this is from Bodensee. It's very easy to find. Even if you don't use a company that organizes everything for you, it's very easy to find hotels that are happy to accommodate cyclists. There's books on the trails, there's maps, there's internet information. You will see more of these in presentation coming. This is the Swiss portal on cycling where you find everything. It's making it easy so that you can sit at home half a year before. That sounds good, that looks good. There's an example from Germany, from a region that provides information on its cycle routes in Swedish. It's actually fascinating. It's easier to find information in Swedish on cycle touring in Germany than it is finding information on cycle touring in Sweden. Oh, where do you want to go? Where do I feel welcome? It's quite easy to see. Getting there, it's also an important issue. If I decide I want to get to it, how easy is it to get to a region? Can I take a train? Can I come by bus? I mean, for hiking, for cycling, it's quite important. You don't want to go back to the same starting location, because cycling back the same way, if you don't have a circular route, it's quite boring. So you need to have possibility to travel back and forth, especially important for hiking. Hiking back a 3 days hike just backways, there's no way you do that. You need to have good public transport access. That's actually a huge advantage if you have it, because if you come by car, you'll actually have to get back to your car. If you have good public transport, you can start at A, end at B, and still get home without any problem. So, access. How welcome do you feel? Are you just a nuisance if you bring your bike on the train? And you may be allowed if the conductor is nice. Or is it full? Is it absolutely normal and no problem at all? Or maybe even free? This is an example from a trail region in Germany, where the region actually pays for free transport of bikes to attract cycle tourists to that region. So it's making it easy, making it show that people are welcome. Infrastructure is also, of course, it's one element, it's an important element. I've showed this picture, it's from the Bodensee region, because it's quite nice. You get off the ferry in this case, and the cycle trail is almost as wide as the car road. You have a red carpet. It's very clear that you're welcome. It's very clear that, well, we want you here. Please come. We're making it easy for you. Good examples from Sweden. One of the few, to be frank. Pause for taking a break, having good views, making it attractive. Of course, if you have rest places, they need to be well served, because otherwise it's counterproductive. If you have a rest place, but it's just completely messy, and the waste bin has not been cleaned for 3 months, you will lose on it. It's just making it easier. Signposting, information, it's the same for hiking, it's the same for biking. There's no difference. People are the same. What service do you offer in terms of rental bikes, in terms of luggage transport? We have examples from Germany, from Switzerland here. Rental, if you don't have your own bike, is it possible to do it? Will you find it easily? How can you get to the rental bike? Or will the rental bike come to you? It's a big difference as well. Living, the accommodation, that it needs different standards. This is quite an important aspect as well. About 10 years ago, I organized the commercial cycle tours in Scandinavia for German and Swiss companies. And one of the experiences that I will never forget is when I called a hotel at the Swedish West Coast. At that time, 1,000 crowns a night, quite expensive, rather fancy hotel. And I explained to them, I plan to come with groups of cyclists of 15 to 20 people. And he said, we are not a campground. The attitude was devastating. Of course, I didn't choose this hotel. He missed about 250 guest nights through this attitude. Because, of course, I've tried to find another hotel. But that is an important point, is you need to be realizing that hikers, cyclists are actually paying customers, and you should treat them that way. Otherwise, why should they come? Different levels. Different people are on different budgets, people have different needs. Let's not forget the average cycle tourist in Europe is 47 years old. So it's not necessarily the student that wants to stay in the tent all the time. There is all aspects in the market. We will hear more about bed and bike and different labelings, and I think it's a very good way to make people more welcome and make it clear. Food, drinking. Of course, restaurants are important, the possibility to buy food, but the same here, it's an attitude thing that I'm mainly in. Can you just fill up water? Can you just get a drink, even if you're a sweaty cyclist? Of course it should be. You should be able to go into any cafe, have a cup of coffee or a beer, and get your water bottles filled as well, because it's just normal. If that's happening, then your guests will feel welcome. This is an example of how you can do when it's hiking. Now it's an extreme example from Switzerland. There's some farmers very up high in the mountains that offer lodging for hikers. It's a 3 hours hike, 4 hours hike up. There's very few people coming. But they know if you have gone all the way up there, and you will continue, because if you go there, you continue another day or two of quite hard hiking, you will want to have good drinks. So they provide that. It doesn't matter whether they have to pull up the wine and beer in cable car. It's a service to the customer. I'll be very brief, because that's my main point. Cycle tourism, hiking tourism, is no difference to any other tourism. You have to show respect to your customers, you have to have the details, you have to have value for money. You can compensate. The trip, that's my main point, because then my time is running out. That's the challenge. If you sell a car, you produce the car, you're responsible for the quality of the car. As cycle tourism, every provider is part of a chain, but the quality of the product is judged by the entire chain, by the entire product. So you can actually have a fantastic product. If your colleagues mess up, you will lose on it. That's a challenge in that business, that it's the customer doesn't see it as different products, the customer sees it as the trip to Denmark, the trip to Scandinavia. Everything has to fit together. I'll finalize with my very last slide, and I'll actually take a copy from, I had an idea from a Swedish artist, and he had the thesis, how do I get successful? Because that's, as Dennis said, we want to be here for business. How do we get successful in business? He has a very, very simple answer. Make someone happy. Make life easier. Translate that into my terms then, as I understand it. Make it easier, make it attractive, make people feel appreciated when they come to you, and think of the entire product. And then they will come, and then they will tell everyone that it was great. And even if your infrastructure isn't great, of course it's good to have good infrastructure, but the service is the most important aspect. I think I'll leave it by now, because now we will hear even more about cooperation and different products getting and cooperating together.